to Piers and I said, some of the Osbournes have been Hollywood royalty for decades. Unlike the royal family, it hasn't stopped them voicing their opinions on them. Kelly took to a podcast recently to tell us exactly what she thought of Prince Harry.
Good question.
I think Harry's a I do. I think he's he's a whining, whinging, complaining.
What?
Woe is me. I'm the only one that's ever had mental problems. Like, my life was so hard. Everybody's life is hard.
Yeah,
you were the prince of a goddamn country who dressed up as a Nazi, and now you're trying to come back as the Pope?
That doesn't make sense.
Suck it. No.
Do you know what? I couldn't have put it quite like that, but I definitely share the sentiment. Sharon, when you heard Kelly there...
I certainly have a way with words.
Sharon, you've been slightly more polite about them whilst making the same point.
It was all very distasteful, Piers. I was totally bored by the whining, the whining, the whining.
What do you mean by that?
And, you know, the curtsy, the thing she said about medieval times, her lunch with the Queen was like medieval times, which, as you know, is a Disney-type entertainment place for kids.
Okay.
And it's just so horribly disrespectful and just a wine fest.
So here we are. It's quite interesting what's happened to them, isn't it? Because I lost my job because of Meghan Markle over that Oprah interview.
Are you sure about that?
You, Sharon, then disgracefully lost yours on the talk because you basically said I was entitled to my opinion.
Nice.
Where are they now, these two? Because it seems to me that people have basically just got bored of them, which is the most lethal thing of all for any public figures.
Who's going to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I just think the proof is in the pudding, in the sense you've been handed the world and every major contract, you had podcasts, you have all of this, and you didn't deliver because you...
There's nothing to deliver.
Yeah, because you don't have it. And that's okay. And I think they do have a right to privacy, but that doesn't seem to me what they're looking for.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
And Ozzy, let me ask Ozzy, actually, about Sharon getting fired from the talk. Because I felt so angry about that Sharon would be forced out of a job that she was brilliant... Because she was the star of that show.
Yeah, right.
What did you make of it?
I always said it was a setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they were looking for an excuse to get her out.
So that was a f***ing lie.
Well, yeah, and it was the time when, like, what better excuse to kick someone off a show than, you know, start making wild allegations of, like, racism, and it was like the fad of the moment to just, you know, burn someone down just to, you know, wave the woke flag, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was completely outrageous, actually. I mean, Ozzy, to hear people call Sharon a racist, knowing her as well as you do, how did you feel about that?
When I first heard that she got... she's leaving the show, I said, well, Cheryl will stick up for her. She knows she's not a racist friend.
Stop it. Get some help.
And it was Cheryl that threw her under the bus.
She did. Yeah. She never said a word.
I think that's the thing that was... No, and that was the thing that was so disappointing. It's like, you know, all these people that had worked with my mum for double-digit years, knew the whole family, knew everything. Not anyone came out and said, hey, actually, that's a pile of BS, and everyone just went with it because, for one, people couldn't defend my mum because if you do defend, everyone then jumps on you.
What?
And it was just nuts.
And you know, Sharon, the interesting thing, isn't it? If you go back to the start of it, I had to lose my job on Good Morning Britain here in the UK because I said I didn't believe a word Meghan Markle said. I wouldn't believe her if she wrote a weather report. Well, that's been completely vindicated by all the lies which have been exposed since, including stuff that was lied about in the Oprah interview.
Come on now, dog.
So actually, if you take that as the starting point, everything that followed was completely nuts.
It just insanity, and then it seemed, you know, that everybody was parted. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Oh, I'm for them, I'm against them. And it's like, you know, they were given far too much importance because what do they do?
Yeah.
Yes,
well, all they do,
done
actually.
Wonderful things with the games. He has done an amazing job with the games.
Yeah, the Invictus Games is a very good thing. His service to his country was good. But the truth is, the only value they have to these corporations was to trash their families. All of them. And I just don't believe anyone can... You guys are such an extraordinarily strong family unit through thick and thin. You always have been. It's one of the things I love about you most. Family. When you see people who basically disown their entire families on both sides and then pretend they're happy, I don't see how people can be happy when they do that.
No.
No, and the thing is, I've said this so many times, Piers, they're fine, but their children don't have any family.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No grandparents, no aunts, no uncles, no cousins. There's nothing.
Nothing.
Their babies have their mum and dad, and that is what is so terribly sad.
Yeah.
And they know nothing of their heritage.
Well, duh.
Where does this end, Sharon, for those two, do you think?
I said it in the beginning in tears. It's going to end very, very badly. And I don't know why. It just keeps taking me back to Edward and Mrs. Simpson.
Yeah.
It's like history repeating itself.
Yeah.
You know, and all of this, you know, cuddly, lovey, holding hands, going everywhere together. It's so disingenuous. It's like, come on. Give us a break from all of that.
Ozzy, having been through...
They're in love.
Well, I was going to talk to you, Ozzy, about love, because you have one of the greatest marriages, for warts and all, good, bad and ugly, and you've had it all over the decades, but you have one of the greatest marriages I know, because it's actually based at its heart on true love.
So that was a f***ing lie.
And for you, what is it about that woman on the end of that sofa right now that's kept you sitting there and so in love with her for so long?
I couldn't live without her. I've tried. I can't live without her.
And she'll strangle him if he leaves.
Because when I leave, I come back and all my clothes are destroyed.
Stop it, Ozzy.
And Sharon, for you, what is the secret of longevity in a marriage, do you think?
Good question.
You have to realise that you can't change anybody, and it's acceptance. And of course, the bottom line is love, but you accept each other.
Fact.
You know, as you are. You can't change anybody.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break.
They have to change themselves.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you evolve as people, right? But I do think, when I look at the four of you sitting there, I think about all the scrapes you've been through collectively, individually, whatever. It's great to see you guys sitting there as this fantastic family unit. You know, and all of you having come through difficult times. Fact. Well, joining me now is the organiser of Black Lives Matter protests, Iman Ayton, former head of Royal Protection, Di Davis, and Talk TV presenter Sharon Osbourne over in Los Angeles. Sharon, great to have you on the programme. I don't know about you, I got about halfway through the first instalment of this wine-a-thon last Thursday and felt genuinely nauseous. I mean, I could feel vomit rising inside me. But also a sense of tedium. Like, we'd heard all this before with Oprah. Nothing really seemed that new. It was just a new gloss put on all this stuff. But the main purpose of it just seemed to be to attack the royal family, to attack the institution of the monarchy, to attack Britain as a racist country. What do you make of all this?
Good question.
It was all very distasteful, Piers. I was totally bored by the whining. And, you know, the curtsy, the thing she said about medieval times, her lunch with the Queen was like medieval times, which, as you know, is a Disney-type entertainment place for kids.
Yeah, right.
And it's just so horribly disrespectful and just a whine fest. I mean, is the book going to be the same thing? Whining? Is there going to be no positive points? And that whole thing of him filming himself on the Freedom Flight, they must have had that deal with Netflix done months before they ever left. So the whole thing was a setup. Why, unless you had a deal, why would you have done that filming of yourself on the plane and all of that?
And also, what kind of freedom?
Doing a video diary, what?
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yeah, and what kind of freedom is it if all you're doing is living in your California mansion with unbelievable privilege and wealth, and you're signing all these deals with companies who want their pound of flesh, and that pound of flesh is exclusively trashing your family?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, this is all they do. From the Oprah interview onwards,
But
all
how
they've
long
done is trash their families.
Onwards is trash. But there's nothing about themselves, you know, and this is a great time for them to keep talking about their charity. But no.
Boy.
It's about them being these poor little children who are so much in love and how abused they've been. Their race, the way they act, everything has been, you know, abused by the public, by the press, by the royal family. Well, do you know what? You've got a great life. You've got a beautiful family. You're so much in love. Move on. Get a life. Move on. And they just can't seem to, because their living is by telling their truth on the royal family. That's how they make their living.
Appointment is immeasurable.
Yeah.
Their truth, as they say.
Yeah, no, I agree. Di Davis, on the question of their security specifically, because you were obviously responsible for a lot of royal security for many years, Harry claims that they were sort of had their security all taken away. Is that even remotely likely to have been true?
Good question.
Well, no, the answer is absolutely not. The protection team followed them to Canada. It was when they moved from Canada to the United States, somebody far higher than I in my present role or my old role decided, along with a committee that decides this called RABAC, they decided that it was no longer sustainable for British police officers to continue.
Okay.
And I totally and utterly agreed. And can I say, the last time you and I spoke, we were talking about the lies that his Uncle Andrew put across. And here we are again, as an investigator, as you rightly have said, and many others. There are so much inconsistencies in this. There are so many half-truths. And my concern is, as I said, having had some information from Texas, as to the number of individuals there who have believed this hook, line and sinker.
Fact. Yeah.
And if you know your history of attacks on the royal family as I do, then you would start to realise this is potentially very serious indeed, not only for the royal family, but for a fixated person on either side to get in touch and cause, as it did with President Reagan, as it did with Her Majesty a Queen last Christmas, a man with a crossbow, etc., etc.
What is he doing?
Every year, over 1,000 referrals are made to the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre. Most of them are harmless, but amongst them there is a hardcore who could pose serious risk. And that's what I've been concerned about as a consequence of this nonsense that's been spewed out by these two and some of their supporters.
Yeah, I completely agree. OK, look, Marne, we've had a lot of, animated debate about this, and I completely respect a lot of the stuff that you've been saying.
Okay.
Vice versa.
My issue with this is I'm not sure what the supposed end game is or how much more of this we're supposed to stomach. I mean, this is another 3 hours of trashing coming on Thursday, then the book, then a series of interviews around the book. This is just a never-ending stream of attacks on their own family.
I appreciate that's how you feel, but ultimately what they're really doing is highlighting the disgusting elephant in the room that the majority of this nation are more than happy to ignore, and that's what's happening right now.
Is y'all right upstairs?
And they're trying to do it in a way that allows them to look after their family, basically. So if it means making money whilst they do it, then so
What is that elephant in the room?
Good question.
Racism. Racism in terms of racial prejudice within an institution, and racism in terms of this country being racist.
But I said to you the other day, when things got a bit heated at this desk, that I felt that if you're going to make incredibly serious charges of racism in an institution like the British royal family and the monarchy, you've got to provide some evidence. Fact. They've now had a year and a half or more since the Oprah Winfrey interview in which they made all these incendiary claims. And they've not produced any evidence of any racism.
OK, so what I'm hoping is that these next set of documentaries, they will actually provide us with some names so we can kind of stop discussing
What if it doesn't?
and going. If it doesn't, well, what I'll do is I'll provide you with my evidence. Is that all right? If you give me a minute, I'll give you some evidence as to why that specific institution is racist, which I can do.
Shut up, bro.
So, in terms of the evidence that you are likely to find, it is going to be in the form of covert racism. And I know you don't like that word, but it is a fact. So, examples include, in terms of the institution, the distribution of the Order of St. Michael, which is a badge which ultimately depicts a white man with wings trampling a black man.
Here we go again.
We can also delve into the fact that that institution hung up pictures of a little black slave boy on the walls within the institution, and everyone was so blinded by their racial prejudice that no one saw fit to take it down when the black president popped round for tea. Or we can delve into the fact that the Queen Elizabeth, or rather the late Queen, made sure that she did not have to adhere to the equalities laws and legislation, which is arguably what a true racist would do, and we cannot take away the fact,
You're
negate the fact.
You're calling the late Queen a true racist?
No, I'm saying it's arguably what a true racist would do. Make sure.
Racist. You're the head of the Commonwealth. She couldn't have been a less racist person if she had tried. Ask anyone in any of the Commonwealth countries about the Queen. None of them ever felt the Queen was a racist.